Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I very much appreciate your being here. You have often spoken about imbalances in the global economy and the role that they played leading up to the financial crisis. Vice Chairman Cohen noted in a speech last week that deficit countries like the U.S. need to rely less on consumption, but surplus countries like China must increase their domestic demand if the global economy is going to thrive. Which brings me to my first question. It's clear to me, and many experts agree, that China's policy of keeping its currency pegged to the U.S. dollar helps to perpetuate the imbalances in the global economy by subsidizing even more Chinese exports at the cost of increasing American exports. It makes us too much of a consumption country and China too much of an exporting country and not enough of a consumption country. This has a direct impact on American jobs. Now, just about everyone I speak to admits that that's the case. When Lindsey Graham and I started out on this 5 years ago, everyone was saying, oh, please, just go away. We're not. So if China appreciated its currency and moved to a free-floating exchange rate, it would do more for jobs here in the U.S. than any single stimulus program we could pass into law. And now Senator Stabenow and I have combined our currency reform bills into one. We intend to push for action on it in Congress. First question. Do you agree that China's currency policies contribute to harmful global imbalances and was one of the causes of the worldwide recession?
Yes, I broadly agree with that. I think most economists agree that their currency is undervalued and has been used to promote a more export-oriented economy. I think it would be good for the Chinese to allow more flexibility in their exchange rate. It would give them more autonomy in their monetary policy so they could address inflation and bubbles within their own economy. And I think that they should combine, it would be in their interest also to combine a more flexible exchange rate with other efforts to increase domestic demand, domestic consumption, and achieve a more balanced economy. So I don't think the exchange rate is the only factor, but it is a contributing factor to these.
Isn't it a large contributing factor? 30%.
I don't know what
30%. Let's just assume that for the sake of argument right now. That's huge.
I don't know what share of the imbalances can be attributed to the exchange rate and how much to just the other policies that lead to an imbalance of domestic versus foreign demand, but it clearly is a contributing factor.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, why do you think, if it's in China's interest to do it, why don't they do it?
Well, because like us, they have a variety of political considerations and concerns. They are being conservative, first of all, because I think they're concerned about the effects of any large changes given what they still perceive as the fragile state of the global economy. I think that they are, like we do, they have political factors such as the influence of exporters, who are interested in maintaining that strong export orientation. And so they have a variety of both intellectual, if you will, and political rationales.
Okay, and don't we lose thousands and thousands of jobs because of this, and don't billions and billions of dollars flow out of the American economy that wouldn't if just arguendo their economy floated?
I would like to qualify that and say that besides floating the exchange rate, they would also need to take action such as creating a stronger safety net that would increase consumption and create a more domestic orientation towards spending. I don't think the exchange rate by itself in the short term would have a major impact, but over time it would have an impact.
Of course it would. Okay. Yeah. Why don't they move? You mentioned political forces. So you're me or one of us here. And we hear of our manufacturers, for instance, saying they cannot compete. I've been to manufacturers in upstate New York that make great products. They're selling them in China. The Chinese are now copying their products, not letting them sell them in China anymore for all kinds of, but then going to sell them here. And this firm is worried it's going to go out of business. I hear this story over and over again. This is a high-end product. It's a ceramic that deals with pollution in coal-producing electricity plants. What do you do if you're us? I've been talking about this for 5 years. Talking gets you nowhere. And we're ready to act. What do you suggest we do? What do I tell all those workers who have lost their jobs? What do I tell good New York manufacturers who are being put out of business, they believe, by unfair competition?
Senator, it's an important issue, and I think we should continue to press for a more flexible exchange rate.
Don't you think we should take stronger action than we have so far? It's produced virtually nothing.
Well, there has been some appreciation, as you know.
I know, but that was made up for. We're now still about 30% out of balance, which we were 5 years ago.
Senator, I'm not disagreeing with your economic premise at all, but of course the relationship with the United States and China is a very complex one and covers many, many different issues.
Well, you know, it's about time we put jobs and American wealth first, and we're not, and I worry about the future of the country for that reason. Let me go to one final question, Madam Chair. This relates to consumer protection, one substantive and one theoretical. It's clear that non-bank mortgage companies and others outside the mainstream banking system played a major role in the financial crisis, committed some of the worst consumer abuses. The new Consumer Bureau proposed in the Senate Financial Reform Bill will only have enforcement power over large non-banks, and that power will have to be exercised through a rulemaking process. Now, I filed an amendment in committee to pursue, and I'll pursue it on the floor, that would make the new Consumer Bureau able to enforce its rules against non-bank financial companies, large or small, payday lenders, rent-to-own debt collectors. These are some of the most rapacious people. They prey on the poor, and under our bill, they're not regulated because they're small, non-financial. Do you agree they should be regulated?
I think they should be regulated. I think it should be an even playing field, if you wish, between, say, banks and non-banks in terms of the rules that they face.
Yes.
The only complexity is that, of course, there are many states involved in regulating. Some do a better job than others, and I think working with the states would be an important part of trying to do this effectively. Yeah,
but to just exempt small non-financial companies doesn't make any sense, right?
I think there should be an even playing field.
Okay. And final question, it's following up on Senator Brownback. The CFPA, why would you want it in the Fed? I mean, it would seem to me that the whole mission of the Fed is not consumer protection, it's safety and soundness. In my experience, and as you know, I think the Fed has done a good job in many areas. It's done a poor job in consumer protection. Why would you want it in any form in the Fed? Wouldn't it be better to have it be an independent agency? Now, if there are safety and soundness considerations, the Fed can always, they have lots of external events that affect safety and soundness. Why wouldn't it be better to be independent?
We haven't asserted anything on this issue.
I understand. I'm asking you, as the head of the Fed, why would you want this?
Well, the one thing that I would like to...
Or you're saying you don't? You don't want it or not want it?
I understand why people would be concerned, given that we were late in making some important, in taking some important steps. I can understand why some advocates would want to have a purely independent agency that would have this as the top priority. I understand that's perfectly sensible.
I think I want to cut you off right there.
All right, but may I just say though that while we have acknowledged again being late on these issues, I do believe that we should receive credit for a much better performance in recent years, and note that there are advantages. I know the Congress has been grappling with the issue of whether or not the agency should be separated completely from the safety and soundness regulatory function, for example. There are issues there, I think, which are...
If your number one goal were consumer protection, you'd want it independent. Isn't that correct?
I'd want it to have...
I'm not saying it should be or it shouldn't be. I'm just saying if.
Well, I think we all should be concerned about issues like credit availability, for example, and there may be benefits to having some strong interaction between this agency or this set of rulemakings and the bank regulators.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you.